My name is Chris Cameron with Alemica. I am the Director of Business Process Solutions. For those people who are that fancy title, we're just the solution architects. So we're the guys who take our software and try not to bore you with PowerPoints and beauty contests and all the solutions. We come around trying to figure out your business problem, and then we go from there. I do apologize in advance for my Texas accent. If I start having too much of a twang, I do, as the guy said last night when he said, "You're from another country in Texas?" That was me in the back. So. What we're going to be talking to today is a DuPont case study, and I'm actually presenting some things that were presented in our North American conference last year at the end of the pilot phase. This is more of an update. We're bringing this was not presented in Europe. So we'll be presenting that and talking through what DuPont did and how we approached a problem together to solve it here. As I go through, if you have any questions, just fire them at us. I'll tell you if it's in the next slide, but it gives much more context than death by PowerPoint. You've already seen a bunch there already. So what we're looking at first, this was the problem that we had talking with DuPont. They wanted to get this review. We'll just look at how we approached the problem, the project goal, and what we were trying to do. DuPont has to go move towards a data ownership because right now they have a dominant 3PL, something that's everybody in this room probably has, right? In fact, when we go visit with you, many times we ask about your shipment data and you say, "Hold on a second, what we call BDP." I used to be a freight forwarder. When I worked for SEBA before, we would try and be a verb. When a freight company is a verb inside your company, it's a good thing. What we're trying to do here, DuPont's stated goal is to increase the customer delivery satisfaction through visibility. And really, how do we get an efficient pipeline control? If I can see it, I can do something about it. And then if we can increase the admin effectiveness. It's not uncommon to have our CSRs call 14 different people, only to find out from the customer the shipment's late. Everybody has the same problem. So what we're looking at, you'll see us go back and forth, the Alemica slides and DuPont slides that were approved for use here. So, and some of the questions, if you ask me DuPont questions, I will put those aside because I'm not DuPont. So this was part of their S&D diagnostics program that started some years ago, where they said, "Hey, we need to do our sales and distribution. What do we need to change in there?" A couple of learnings came out, not uncommon we see with everyone that we talk to. Key pain points. It takes a lot of work to find out where something is in the world, even though those freight forwarders we use each have a system, which they're in maybe part of the problem. We're going to talk about why that is. Having been a freight forwarder, now a B2B guy, and actually I was a COE at a chemical company. So I've lived all three parts of the existence here. We'll kind of show exactly where some of the gaps are. So we talked about DuPont CSRs, considering the time, and what came up with this, starting in 2013, we said, let's do a small-scale pilot. They called it Project Cornerstone. And I'll talk a little bit about that. And we wanted to basically do some technical, financial resources put to it so we can figure out how we can string together a global logistics visibility chain. So the DuPont project was actually much bigger in scope. We're only going to be looking at the one that was outside the company. So at the time that we joined the project, DuPont had already done the Project 1 and Project 2 internally. And where Alemica was brought in was IBM has the analytics layer. And they do that very well. What they didn't have was how do we get a bunch of data that's good quality data into that analytics layer. So Alemica became the front end of that, is how this evolved. So the project summary, this is where the internal side from DuPont is really get that early warning functionality for the CSRs and enable those logistics shipment visibility with a single modal transportation. So we started on ocean, what you're going to see is ocean, because if we can solve the ocean problem, Therein you have it. So when we did this with Cindy Hain and I worked on this project, she's our logistics product manager. As we were developing that, we said, all right, let's take our ocean part, and if we can use that so it'll scale into trucks, air, etc. We were having multi-modes go into this. It actually tracks across modes and across service providers. That was key, because BDP was the forwarder of choice in one region. Then we started to roll out. I get ahead of myself, we'll do it. We start to roll out, and we find out there's Milky Way forwarder who controls southern China. So that was nowhere in the spec. How are we going to do that? And Milky Way has about this much technical expertise. Because they're in China with the swivel chair integration method, right? So it has to accommodate all. So as we do this, the whole idea was to make multi-mold, multi-enterprise, and then our pilot was to gain the experience, understanding, and insight. This may happen to you. Supply chain is like this huge kraken or massive octopus with arms everywhere when you get into logistics, right? They come to us with the scope, here's what we want to do. You get halfway through and you realize it's got 12 arms, not 8. So we did the pilot to discover many of the other arms a part of this octopus. And then we could validate the use case scenarios, is what the pilot was set up to do. So we set up a couple of lanes. As you can see, we picked the very easy ones. Nakashiba, India. Now I know who my logistics people are. Because if you've ever done logistics in Nakashiba, it's a difficult challenge. The Shanghai was a little bit easier. We moved it to Xinjiang. And then we had Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. So we did this, and what the overview of that pilot started to look like was we created an all-mode solution to measure against a shipment baseline. So the way this works is we being Limica, wanted from DuPont that shipment baseline. Here's the shipment we're doing. We promised the customer it was going to be delivered here, and we wanted the shipment legs. So in SAP, you know how you build legs, and you know we're going to go from door to inland port using this carrier. We're going to go from port to port using that carrier delivery. We wanted those legs. And at the beginning of the project, no problem, we have those. We even went inside of Limica and we pulled the data that was already flowing. Got it. Here's where it is. I'll save it for later. We found out there's a few gaps there. So those are the challenges. So that's one of our keys to make sure we have that. So it's very important to have those legs, because if something is going to alert that something's going to happen, we all do this with our steamship lines especially, right? From a procurement standpoint, it's very expensive to go door to door. You would rather start controlling some of the pieces. So procurement wants to control the pieces. But from an end-to-end visibility standpoint, if I can just have a steamship line give me door to door, they will take care of it and send me all the information. Two competing agendas. So our challenge here was to break that apart. In some regions, they're still going to go door to door. That's fine. In other regions, we are going to have different carriers helping through the legs of the shipment. But the main idea is that last part, tracking for non-conformance. Because we want the system to tell us when something doesn't happen. That's as important as when something does. Then that's where I'm segueing into the alerts. So the alert departs are the variances and potential variants. What I mean by potential variants, I'd love to say it's heuristic. It's not. It's not a learning tool. But what it does, especially in the ocean freight, remember the legs of the shipments or gateways? You didn't make your first gateway. That's 45 days before it's due down here. You can tell people something's about to go wrong. That's what it was built to do. That was that part. And I'll show you exactly. We aren't going to go into the technical detail. We're going to show you how we executed it. Key, provide shipper ownership of the data to feed analytics. So their analytics solution is already an IBM solution that resides elsewhere in another department. BDP has this part. APL Logistics has some more data. And we move regions, we start getting Milky Way, we start getting all kinds of different regions who have their own data repository. So this creates one, at the end of the day, for full disclosure, gotta say this. How many people here use BDP? Do you use BDP? How many use BDP Smart? Okay, BDP Smart is their tool to manage ocean freight. Look for it. When we started this, and I had to explain, I had to say this out front to DuPont, we had to say, we are going to build BDP Smart. It's going to do many of the same things. Panalina has this, SIVA. I helped build SIVA's original one, right? The whole idea is this is no longer the 3PL's data, because you trying to get that's difficult. This is your data. That's the key. Now you can do what you need to do with your data. All the stuff we heard about the smart manufacturing in there, key, you have to have good, clean data. So many people have bought analytics tools and no one believes the output because we all know that data doesn't work. So that's where we're trying to go at. To that point, it's a tool for continuous improvement. This is a domain approach. What I mean by that is when we rolled it out, immediately things started breaking. The whole idea is we found data holes within DuPont. We found data holes within some of the service providers. But we started getting traction very, very quickly with the first things first. And then it created an environment where people said, oh, let's go back and change that. Oh, we can change SAP and it doesn't cost us an arm and a leg. All we have to do is change one thing. So we have a second customer who's implementing this right now. It was impossible, could never do it. We started deploying this, we put it in place, and they didn't need the SAP changes. All they needed was to change one process where they logged the carrier booking number, the underlying carrier booking number. If they did that, everything started to work. But they had no reason to change. How could they get people to make that change management when they say, I don't know what that is? So this tool became a way to bring that to the surface, focus the light on it, and you continue to change. So here's the solution model. DuPont's in the center with dominant partners and secondary service providers, your truckers, things like this, right? So we said, all right, what we need is a global logistics visibility layer up top that then powers the analytics, that has a data structure. This was key. What is the data structure that's in it? And DuPont's actually moving upstream a little bit to get to handling units, so it was very important that you could find some of the things we heard in the BMS or the Bayer presentation. That's coming. How do you get that pedigree for things that move through the logistics supply chain and know where did it get open, et cetera. So we made sure that we had all of those and we captured from multi-enterprise. The whole idea was to get the first layers up and then your tertiary sources and your secondary sources down. Everybody's feeding the same platform. At the end of this day, this is not a software application. This is a network that uses a software application. But many times we'll have people who never even see it. So we've integrated Newport into this now. Newport is just feeding it. You guys don't actually go in and do anything. Nope. So it's a full data feed. So the application is secondary. The network is primary because you have to match data from two guys in a truck who delivers your container to the rail line, to the steamship line, to the customs broker, to the truck that delivered it. That's our process, right? How is it? There's a little trick. At the very beginning, you got the steamship underlying carrier booking number and container number. You capture those, and you start adding little pieces of data to it. Now everybody, all along, can find it. Here's the thing. When logistics gets confusing, follow the money. How does the trucker get paid? When he tells the steamship line with their booking number, they pay him $200 for drayage. How does the rail line get paid? Here's the container number and the booking number. Here's the money. It all gets, that we won't charge you for that, that's from my forwarder days. If you do that, I guarantee you it's much easier. So let's look at some of the next areas, because now the goal here, we've all lived through the Gartner mature supply chain maturity model. We're all trying to get there. We formed Alemica and others to get down costs, to be able to execute easier. So you don't need to read all that. The whole idea is how do we get to the right where we can start to sense and do something. And then at that point, we're able to say, I want to build in points in the supply chain where we can say, I can run pre-approved actions. What do we mean by that? Focus that a little more, but what we mean by that is, when I first started as a freight forwarder, I think I was on the job 3 months, and a guy told me to rent a helicopter. Because he says, I have to deliver to Walmart, and my container is 6 days out of Long Beach. Can you just fly a helicopter out there and pick it up and bring it in? I'm like, have you ever heard of a stack and a hatch? You can't do that. Well, the whole idea is if you build off-ramps, there is an off-ramp, right? It's Rotterdam. I can change the bill of lading and truck it the rest of the way faster. All right? We have, in the U.S., we actually like the rail freight, not people on the rail, right? So we can get it off the rail at a certain point and move on. That's when you start, if you have visibility to what's coming next, where it is in the flow, you can actually do this. That was the challenge. So our functional view, at this point, we'll now get down into, we know what we're trying to shoot at. So what do we do for the solution? So we looked inside the Olympic golf bag to play this course, and we came up with the club in red. So we've got the Global Shipment Visibility Club. This is what it starts to look like. That is small. All right, so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to show you this one. All right, so I'm going to do it like this. Here we go. I don't have a pointer for here. This is an ocean freight record. You can all have the presentation in check. Right? So here's your ocean freight record. As it moves down, standard booking information, when it's needed, all our parties, right? Here's the trick, right there. These two pieces are actually this long, so they go out to the right. So this is lane 1, pre-carriage, main carriage, on carriage, and on carriage. 4 different carriers touch this. The customer service gave a promise date for the whole shipment sitting up here. Our task was to capture this. So when we wrote the scope of work and started it, I mean, this is the way just in case we're out of time. In the pilot, we got it nice, neat data. This stuff came in just like this. And right here are your ETA dates. ETA, ETDs at each place. So Olemica logged those in the database and didn't turn on the business rules. Hey, this didn't happen. We didn't receive it here. We were supposed to receive a sailing date. Today's today. It was supposed to be yesterday. Here's what's happening. And I'll show you in a moment some alerts that came out. So we get into the project and it's going right. And I wouldn't be presenting this. You already know the story of the pilot. It was success. Then we get into the real project. Right? Whoops. Guess what's missing in the data? So what we've done already in the real project is we took a pause, because you'll see when we stop the time difference, when we stopped the program, the pilot, and started getting actual shipments to flow, you're going to go, Chris, that's 9 months. Where were you guys going in 9 months? We were solving that problem. So the way that problem works now is we get the shipment record from DuPont with this one, with one carrier record, because all they know is they gave it to APL Logistics. Then we take that and we go out to BDP. So we hold that, we go out to BDP, give them this reference number right here. They respond with the booking confirmation. It's the same booking confirmation they give DuPont, but DuPont doesn't keep it in a place that we can get it. So we said, why don't you give us a copy of that? That copy comes in and we start merging. So BDP, in this range, actually builds the legs for DuPont. And we start to put these together. That's in one region. When you go to India, Milky Way does it. So the whole point is, and we'll have, you can put Panalpina, Kugnanaga, anybody else, because at the end of the day, remember, this is not, as Kim and I were talking, this is, forwarders hate it when something gets between you and them. This doesn't get between you and them. It makes them very much a strategic partner. We're just a data layer holding it together. So now BDP gives us this, and our business relation does a couple of things. So, what's interesting about this that you can't see from there, and I apologize again. Once you see these, see this column of blues? And now you got some blacks. So this are all the container status records that come from the various carriers, all referring to the same number. If it's in blue, I can tie it back to the original booking record on the previous screen. It all works. The blacks say, guess what? I got a record for a container, but I can't tie it to the back the booking number. But you still have it by container. You can still find it in the Olympic network. We all talk to you about SCOM, and you're like, what's Olympic SCOM? That is what SCOM is, because that's a network of multiple carriers coming together around key data elements. That, when it comes through, you can now grade those carriers. We now have a way to look at, put that in the procurement cycle. Who gives us the best data? Now we start getting lined up for smart manufacturing. But the killer is this screen. You can kind of see that. All right, what this screen is. The supplier, Jiangsu Institute of Economics, turned the cargo in. The drayage company, we also get a feed from them. Tell us we turned it in. Oh, one told us 1.9, 110. Guess who put it in right when it left the door? They didn't really turn it in properly. Now we got two different carriers. We used to call it adjudication. Two different carriers telling on each other. It's kind of like with your kids in the back of the car on a long trip. That's what's going on. And it continues up. BDP told us it's loading. APL told us the vessel departed. BDP told us when the bill of lading is released. And APL told us when the bill of lading is released. Et cetera, et cetera. The key is, when we start the project, yes. Okay, you'll see it coming up in a few slides. DuPont, before this pilot project, was set up and they were very dependent on one single thread of data through BDP. BDP is still a major player. They're strategic, they're not going anywhere. But now we're starting to get more pieces of data that are together. As I used to be a forwarder, sometimes I have problems with this and say, I can't give you what I don't get from the steamship line. This starts to solve that problem because now we can use multiple parties. If you can use like some of our tire and rubber guys, they integrated the port in here. The port of Charleston is integrated in that tire company. So now we're telling on the steamship line with the port in and out record. So that was the key. So every time we show this screen, everybody goes, okay, I get your whole solution. Let's figure out how we're going to do this. Because that's the main one. Once you do that, you're able to start to tie it into alerts. So this is an email that pops out, and we now have something that says, what this actually says that you can't see, that you can see on the final one, is there's a high probability these two containers are going to be late. Because we didn't make the first gateway. That we use other carriers to get the data. DuPont didn't know that. Because when they give the shipment, they only know this is when it has to be in Shanghai. But now the network of carriers that DuPont has, with people coming in, they started to say, I can do that. Not only that, there's 100 containers of movement during this time. This comes to that particular individual and says, here's the tube. So the challenge in the reporting scenario was everybody's got a haystack. We're looking for a needle in a haystack. That's not what we're really doing. We're trying to find the needle. I really don't want to go through a haystack. There's the two needles that are going to poke you. That's the whole idea. And so when we were going through this, what about dashboards? What about this? What about this? Remember that end-to-end supply chain and about building off-ramps? Dashboards are great for those of us who manage. I can tell you from being your service provider before, you don't care. You want that right there, now do. Now, dashboards we're going to need because we have to justify it afterwards, right? So we're not minimizing the dashboards, but what we're saying is use them the right direction. So that's what happens looking at. So here were some of the results. When we went to go do this and looking at DuPont, we had a large coverage, a footprint of coverage in the Olympic network that we could already start to plug in together. So DuPont just leveraged that and went forward. Here's where some key learnings. They came out with the idea that they're dependent on outsourced parties. So rather than replace that, how do we then embrace that? Because one thing that's not going to go away is outsourcing. When I worked for the chemical company, it's not like I could go to my boss and hire a bunch of people to bring that back in. We had to deal with it. So that was the whole idea. If we control the data, we start to deal with it. The lack of data ownership prevented that challenges if DuPont wanted to do any value add. So now they had data ownership. The gaps in responsibilities. This is what we discovered through the pilot phase. I mean, this goes to here, to here, to here. I can tell you this much. The technology on this was so easy. The change management, it's still going on. Right? And it probably always will. But it's starting to grow, especially on the North America-Asia lane where it's taking root. Then we started to understand using the 3PL supplied data. If we just went that data, it could make it very costly and disruptive if later on in a different region DuPont needed to switch. Now this creates one platform. So at that point we all said, hey, the project is going to expand. Let's move forward with it from an expansion standpoint. So then we did changes. So that actually finished in May of 2014. The rest of 2014, we did this, getting going, and into 2015. So the first thing we had to do was, now that we had the pilot, then within DuPont, we had to get the right business unit. Where was it going to go? How was that going to get sponsored? And we had a modest target, and we said, look, if you do this, because one of our tire companies actually, using a sister of the product of this, took 10 days of inventory out of their supply chain. So now they can see this. Now they weren't ordering more, because they trusted the data. So DuPont, they said, no one's going to believe us about 10 days. Let's go with 3 days. So they said, that's our reduction. So it took us about a month or so to get lined up on that. Here's another thing. The scope was redefined to include inbound shipments and stock transfer moves, STO moves, in addition to customer deliveries. When we did the pilot, it was all about outbound. When we found the right business unit, they said our real need and what damages our customers is the inbound to the plant, because it's very short throws to our customers in each region. So we flipped the whole solution on its head, and it survived the flipping. that was quite helpful. But what we did to help survive it, because now the thing was, DuPont can no longer give us the shipment on inbound shipments. You don't have that data. So what we did is took another Alemica tool, what we call the order to invoice platform, which is used to manage the suppliers on the inbound. Bolted it on the front of the ocean freight platform that we modified, the global shipment visibility. And we said, now we're going to add suppliers to this. Drop us POs, DuPont, instead of ocean freight, instead of the shipment. They drop us the ocean freight, or the PO. The supplier goes into the portal, makes 3 or 4 clicks, and creates the ASN with the data we wanted. And we're able to grab that to start the shipment base. And then we start poking into freight forwarders. So it became, the expansion got a little bit, and then what happened is the payoff for that, the suppliers immediately are going to go, you want me to do what? That'll cost you. Well, what we found out, we did a lot of legwork, we found out that their suppliers, they're doing 10 different emails on every shipment. So one portal, 10 emails. Maybe DuPont will charge you, because now they just help to smooth out the process. So the supplier is actually doing it. And guess what? The same alerts apply in the supplier portal. They tell you if someone hasn't committed. So when DuPont has I mess it up with our GCS, they have a global customer support who manages all the suppliers coming in, right? They looked at it and said, oh, I only have one place to go. I don't have 10 emails to do. Let's do this. So we started to roll this out. Then the strategic forwarder communications gave visibility to the shipment legs. That's the story I told you, where when we got to the live phase, here's our shipment data. No, we don't have it. So we all got together and we sat around and we go, can't stop this now. We told them the pilot was successful. We have to fix this. So we figured out a way to fix it. Now, BDP, APL Logistics become very important partners on key data elements to complete the supply chain operating model. And then we added additional forwarders and carriers, so now this first phase has 21 partners that are all in the pool. Then the rollout finally began in the second quarter, so it's only just begun. And we now have shipments that have begun to flow. So what's unusual on this tool, most of the time when you do IT projects, you have the go live date, right? This project is very easy because our go live date is not going to finish for about another 24 months. But what happens is you go live with the biggest bang, and it's live very, very quickly. So you start getting, remember the continuous improvement? What happens is it starts to bring process changes in a reportable way, easy to manage. So you can go back and go, here's the dollar impact of that. And then it'll continue to go live until all 21 of these partners are there. I think this run will be 7 months, if I remember correctly, before we get those 21 on. And then we move into another phase and another phase because they just keep lowering the water. That's how it's working. So that's the case. That's where we did that, and that's how DuPont has started down this journey. That's why I call it, it's not open the Christmas box and we got global logistics visibility. If I'm doing that, you know I'm on it. Right? So it is a journey. But the whole idea is how you structure the journey in such a way so that we can continually see the payoff that's needed to justify having sat in your seats before. You can see the end. We want to do this. But management's like, this quarter, I don't know. So you've got to be able to chop it up into quarters there. Other questions or make sense how we made the data magic happen? Yes, sir.
Is this solution primarily for the overseas business of Mexico or also for the domestic?
It is also for the road-based, the domestic as well, because we saw the ocean freight side. Now the domestic transportation can follow the same flows because we unbuckled the Atlantica ocean freight workflow and just made it a tracking kind of system. Now mode is irrespective of mode. So we can dump trucks in there, we can dump rail in there to go through.
You mentioned it's just being implemented in another customer. Who is that other customer?
I think we can say Lubrizol. So Lubrizol's rolling this out as well. We have 3 other customers who are trying to figure out how to do this. Because when this all comes together, the strategy is usually a customer improvement strategy. And those take lining up multiple departments. Quite frankly, for us at Atlantica, the sales cycle on this is a year. Because we have everybody together. Because everybody dancing together. I presented this at DuPont. I can remember to count 7 times. The same, it's actually the 7 present. I saved the presentation, started doing 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? I didn't let them see that because I'd get a new manager come in, and each time, okay, when they saw that one little screen that you can't see there of all the different drayage companies that we turned in, every time they see that, I get it. I believe now that you can make this happen because you have 3 data elements, and I see it there. We can make that happen. So it's a bit of a churn. So my team. Mark, do I have any? No. So Mark's on my team in Amsterdam. Our team's usually going around supporting you to go, okay, this is how it works.
Just a question, is that sort of intra-company transactions from DuPont US to DuPont Europe, or can also customers from DuPont participate in that process?
So that is its ultimate goal, is to let the customers have access to this. So at both Lubrizol, DuPont, and several other conversations we're having in that year-long sales cycle, everybody asks that at the beginning. My customers can go here and do this, right? Yes, you can. As then, about 3 meetings later, they go, no. Because then they will know before my customer service reps. So let me get a couple of champion customer service reps who get comfortable with this before I start rolling it out to the end customers. So that is...
And you can match your PO to the sales order. So you have a matching item.
That's exactly right. That's exact. The PO and didn't see, because it was so far away, was the PO and the sales order are in that same pool of data. Because the whole idea is when you come to the interface, I want to come with the piece of information I have and find it irrespective of where it is. So the customer, it's built so the customer can say, here's my PO.
The source of the data is coming from the carriers, or do you use other sources like AES to know where the container is at a certain moment?
We don't use AES to do it. It is coming from the carriers.
And are you happy with the quality of the data they provide?
Notice this one was APL. I am. If you ask me about MSC, right? So as we continue to look at who the primary carriers are in the supply chain operating method for that, the network for that client, we then can determine, are we going to need a backup? Do I need to go to another? Because there are a number of different ocean reporting services. We've been talking to a few out of Singapore especially, because this was, as it gets bigger in Asia, you start running into small feeder lines. There's going to be no place to plug in there. So we're at this stage, we're happy. Long term, we know our unhappiness is, we can see it coming. So yes, there will be a bigger one. AES we may not do just because of the way that's set up and who we are and who they are. And so I'll let our CTO, as he and I talk through that, he's kind of looking at that and see where the best source might be.
What was the biggest challenge you think for the DuPont people to get that up and running from the internal DuPont perspective?
Sure. Finding the source of the data. Everybody knew where certain things were, so we did a lot of exercise through that. Then the change management, to actually believe it. We all have tools, right, that have been, we all look at it and go, it doesn't work, right? So the biggest one, after we got the source of the data and started putting it together, we had to do a lot of proof that it was accurate, that it was valid, because there was a lot of disbelief and skepticism in the user group. That was huge. So those two were the main problems to get there, to get over. Once you get over those, it starts to smooth out. You find a champion and all of a sudden, hey, it worked.
So you said the data is located in sort of a network, so you do not plug back any ETA data into the SAP system of DuPont, right? So
That's their design.
Okay.
Right? When I had to ask that question 3 times, because are you sure you don't want this? Because you can use it for title transfer change and all the rest of the stuff that are very helpful. It's not that it's not available, it was just not part of this design. So it should be. And our scope, notice it had the project 1, 2, and 3. The scope of Project Cornerstone was outside the company. So it was more a political reason why it didn't go back than a practical.
What's your experience with regards to the data ownership? I mean, you mentioned that you get the status from the steamship lines, but that steamship line is somewhere way down. Your customer is DuPont, which go down to BP, APL Logistics, and then somewhere down here there's a steamship line.
Right.
You find any reluctance from the steamship lines to provide you with all that information? And what do you actually get?
Yeah.
Because for the steamship line, APL Logistics is the customer.
Right.
Not DuPont.
That's correct. So that's the reason when we look at that from the steamship line, the resistance we get from the steamship line is not a case of wanting to, it's usually a case of schedule. On the steamship line, here you go away, right? That's usually the first one. The second one is, we'll give you anything you want, but how are you going to find it in our massive data? So the way we did it was for the steamship line, making it easier, just standardizing around like the 315 message. The FX standard messages, that things that are already there that they want to give, and they can find it. Many times they're intriguing on the 11 network.
Yeah, and then you would give that, you have a 315 message. Do you get that for all shipments with that line? Because they don't know what the DuPont shipments are.
Correct. What they do know is the customer code for DuPont, and we get it by customer code.
They are able to identify this again.
Right. But we get DuPont data, and not all DuPont trade lanes are in this yet. Then we cull it out and get the ones that are in it here, and then continue to expand that. So as long as the steamship line, oh, you want DuPont? Here you go. They back up the dump truck and it comes. So it's that way. But it's usually the biggest hurdles to getting the data is about the scheduling. I can't do this till 2018, right? Things like that. And then it's about, well, if I send you this, does that map to your ABC 123 document, et cetera? So that's the part from Alemica, that whole standardization thing we were supposed to do from the beginning. We deploy that so we can say, just send us what you can, and then we'll standardize it. Other questions?
So has this just started in Europe? Because you mentioned the second phase of the project now going on in the second quarter.
It's in North America and Asia. It's covering that trade lane first before it comes to Europe.
But it's planned also to go out in Europe with all those wonderful Middle East shipments that are so simple to manage.
Yes, those. Yes, it's and quite frankly, the also in Alemica, this is something from our internally getting the ability to sell this here to our European customers. Since we built this and started deploying it in North America first, now we brought it over here to Europe, so you'll start seeing more. Excellent. So if there's any other questions or whatnot, I'll leave my cards out, and if you'd like to, or Mark Van Harlingen is on my team back there. He's in your time zone. If you need anything, we'd be happy to come talk to you on it as we need to.